Well, hey there, guys. I'm Axel the Beast, and this is the Curiosity Shop, the ZeldaEngine.net video mailbag where I answer your Zelda questions. And, sorry that there was no mailbag last week. This was actually because of the article, well, partially because of the article I posted, which was my big theory article about the Dark Tribe being the villains of Skyward Sword. And you actually should give it a read. You can probably still find it on the news page if you scroll down a bit, because it relates to some of the questions that are going to be asked, and while I'll still answer the questions, I'll give more detail on this. And this is the article that I've talked about that I intend to write. Well, I finally wrote it, and it's up there. Yeah. Our first question comes from Jonathan Gaskin. You've said multiple times that you do not think Vati will be the main villain, and obviously not Ganondorf, as he has not yet been born. So what do you think of the original demon Ganon that possessed, or was possessed by, Ganondorf before this event? I've actually talked about this theory a couple times on previous mailbags, and I've actually, explained that I basically think that that idea, this spirit Ganon or demon that possesses Ganondorf, to be completely baseless and kind of silly. However, at the same time, as I wrote that Dark Tribe article, it ended up being that I started to spot evidence that actually pseudo-supports it, in that it's the person who inherits the trident who becomes the King of Darkness. Now, this doesn't mean that Ganon's possessed, but it just simply means that the Demon King Ganon, the pig monster, is the power of the trident, meaning there was a King of Darkness, a pig monster, probably, at least, prior to Ganon. And I think that, indeed, Skyward Sword will probably have Ganon's predecessor, the prior owner of the trident. This explains a lot of this story in Four Swords, and again, if you read the article, you get the details of what I'm talking about. JediFan89 asks, various sources have referred to Ganon as being a demon, yet Ganondorf's backstory makes out like he's a normal Gerudo, implying the Triforce of Power turns him into a beast/boar monster. Is this Ganon form literally a demon, or is it a title or something? A lot of the demon stuff comes from, like, the original games where they actually call him the Demon King, and especially in the Japanese version, a lot of the, words they use to describe Ganon involve Demon King and stuff like that. And, this is just what they called him, because back then he was just a pig monster. They didn't even invent the Gerudo storyline yet. He was never a humanoid back then. But now that they have the whole Gerudo thing, and even Four Swords, which explains, the origin of the trident that turned him into the King of Darkness and supposedly into his pig form, has him start as a Gerudo. So yeah, I'd say that at some point the Triforce of Power, or the trident, or somehow he just kind of becomes this ruler of darkness and ruler of demons, and as such he's the Demon King, and he has a monster form, so yeah, it's pretty much a demon form. So yeah. KSEBomb89 asks, in your last video while discussing the harp, you mentioned the Sheikah. I was wondering, do you think the mysterious character in the trailer could be a Sheikah? Yeah, sure. Provided that, the Skyward Sword isn't the new character, that the new character isn't the Skyward Sword girl just redesigned, which I still think is a possibility, despite the fact that, no one else seems to. I don't get why no one else sees that connection, but provided that is not the case, I think it probably is a Sheikah. Now, again, in that same article, I discussed that I'm pretty sure that the Sheikah are actually the Dark Tribe, or at least they used to be, like the Sheikah are the offshoot of the Dark Tribe that chose to serve the royal family. So, in that, I think that that character is a member of the Dark Tribe, if it's not the Skyward Sword. And I think that it's going to be a Sheikah because the Sheikah are the Dark Tribe. So basically, yeah, that's my answer. It might not be, but I think there's a very good chance of it, and that would explain the presence of the harp. DarkKiller130 asks, what is your opinion on the Shadow Temple? Do you think it could have been a prison and all the dead Hylian souls haunt there? It could have been a prison. I mean, that would explain the presence of, sealed evil spirits in there. Now, what's interesting, though, is the fact that it's clearly the place of worship or spiritual importance of the Sheikah, the Shadow Folk. And that doesn't mean it doesn't have an alternate purpose. I mean, it seems like most of the temples sort of do. Well, possibly, anyway. But, that's clearly, the first and foremost thing it is. As for what it was prior to that, if you think about it, if the Sheikah were the Dark Tribe, this place is a building that has... The Shadow Temple is a building that has significance to them. If it has significance to them, as they used to be the Dark Tribe, it probably is actually something that related to them while they were the Dark Tribe, as opposed to a prison, because, well, I don't know, that would be something where the Dark Tribe would be sealed, not that the Dark Tribe would use. So, it's hard to say. I actually suspect we will see backstory of the Sheikah and the Dark Tribe and the Sheikah serving the royal family in Skyward Sword, especially since Skyward Sword will probably cover the foundation of the royal family. So yeah, now granted all this Dark Tribe stuff is still theoretical, but I really did do my research on it, so I do think it's probable. Alright, that's enough of that Dark Tribe mess. Smitty asks, will we see the origin of the elemental stones from Ocarina of Time and Skyward Sword? They were key items to get the Master Sword in Ocarina of Time, so could they also be on Skyward Sword? You know, I hadn't thought of that, but that's actually a really interesting thought. I've talked about and thought about and, you know, changed my mind back and forth about the presence of, like, the patron deities of different races, like the Deku Tree, Lord Jabu Jabu, and I don't know if the Gorons really had one, maybe Fulvagia, even though it ate Gorons, but, you know, if that is true, I mean, bringing that up, those 3 stones, the spiritual stones, were actually very important to the Master Sword, so I actually think we may definitely see them and the patron deities in Skyward Sword. That would be very interesting. That's a very interesting observation. Clane819 asks, do you think that there is going to be more character development in Skyward Sword than in other games in the Zelda series? You know, I really can't give you any other answer other than I hope so. I have no comment on the likelihood, because I really have no idea what Nintendo is really planning to do with the future of the Zelda series. Whether they plan to make it more deep or more simple or not change it at all, I really don't know. They have not made this any clear by saying that it's going to be that Skyward Sword is going to be a completely different game, and then saying that that's not true. I mean, they're not making this any clearer for us. So, all I can say is I hope so. Majora's Mask had a lot of great character development, especially for a Zelda game, and I really do hope Skyward Sword will follow that kind of mold, or do better, but I can't really say on how likely that is. Silver Elec asks, okay, so the developers said that they are adding extra content to Ocarina of Time 3D. It makes you wonder that if they are going to add the missing content that was missing from the original, like the 2 missing temples, tunics, and the possibility of Ura Zelda. But I think that they will make it so that they can plan ahead for the Majora's Mask remake to connect the two, like they were supposed to be originally intended. So what are your thoughts on this? First of all, I've talked about this a little, but to start, it is actually somewhat confirmed that they will be adding some new stuff to the Ocarina of Time 3D game, 3D remake. They haven't made any comment on it other than that, and what they said was pretty abstract. They basically said there's going to be a lot of stuff, new stuff, but I don't know what that necessarily means. But I've talked about it before that I actually do think if they're going to be adding stuff, first and foremost, it's probably going to be stuff that was missing from the game. Other than that, it's likely going to be side content that does not influence timeline or canonical storyline or things like that. So I don't agree with the Majora's Mask thing. And in addition, Majora's Mask is definitely the sequel to Ocarina of Time. It's not like they originally intended that. That is what is intended with the current finished version. So there's no way they can add more to that. It just takes place after Ocarina of Time ended. There's nothing else you can add on to that. Triforce's Mist asks, in your opinion, what are the chances that we'll see a gold edition of the Wii or 3DS? The Wii will be 5 years old by the time of Skyward Sword's release, so do you think that they will offer a gold Wii bundle? You know, it seems doubtful, even though that they have done them in the past. I mean, I haven't paid a lot of attention to it because I'm not much of a collector, but I know that they have. But it seems sort of unlikely with the Wii, just because they seem to be semi-ditching that kind of tradition. They seem to have fairly generic packaging, standards for the Wii, they'll have the multiple language manuals and the recyclable packaging, etc. But at the same time, you know, maybe they will, because they did the Black Wii recently, so they're obviously still kind of thinking about selling the Wii. As for the 3DS, it probably has more chance, but I don't know. I guess it's something I'm a little indifferent about, but that's probably the best answer I can give you. Alright, last question. Zelda Link is Awesome asks, do you think it would be cool if they remade all the games, including the 2D ones, so that they had the same graphics? Sorry to, give you a very flat response, but, absolutely not, really, because I think one of the cool things about the Zelda series is that each game is somewhat standalone. I mean, granted there's all these timeline connections, but really each one is a standalone experience. It's not part of some, chronological storyline that you have to see part 1, then part 2, then part 3, I don't know, Star Wars or something. It's not like that. They're these standalone experiences, and part of that is that they have unique feelings and unique styles and art. I don't think there's any reason to change these art styles or make them uniform. In fact, I think that damages kind of what Zelda is. As for remaking them, you know, sure, why not? But I think, as I've discussed in the past, spending your time on remakes is sort of a waste of time when you can just add new things to the series. Alright guys, that's it for this time. Be sure to send your questions to the contact page, linked to in the description, and I'll see you guys later.